Girl lost her son in the world of the zombie apocalypse. Hello all. This is Jacobson and this is a brief retelling of the 17th and 18th episodes of the 10th season of the zombie series The Walking Dead. You can see the previous episodes at the links in the video description. As soon as this video gets 300 likes, I will release the next part. Also leave your comments, it will help promote the video. Have fun watching it.
In the woods, Maggie and Judith deal with walkers together. After putting down the zombie whisperer, Maggie asks Judith and Michonne. The couple joins Lydia and the others on the road. As the others pull the cart away, Maggie is suddenly confronted by the sight of Negan helping the other survivors as a free man. He awkwardly greets her and assures her that he has not run away. After looking at him for a while, Maggie leaves without saying a word. Near the Hilton, Daryl and Carol are joined by Maggie and two other members of her group, whom she introduces as Elijah and Cole. Maggie explains that she and Herschel lived with the group before their village was destroyed, so she decided to move everyone to Hilltop. Carol and Daryl cast anxious glances at each other, which confuses Maggie. The situation clears up when they show Maggie that the Hilltop has been destroyed. Carol tells Maggie that Negan was with the Whisperers the night everything burned down. Maggie realizes that it was Carol who released him, but she defends her actions, claiming that Alpha should have died, and Negan was their best chance to do it, and that it was thanks to him that they did not lose everything. Maggie thanks Carol for the story and leaves. Daryl tells Carol that she shouldn't have told anything, but Carol thinks she should tell Maggie the truth. Daryl says he will help Maggie get the rest of her group back by trying to smooth things over, but Carol doesn't believe Maggie will ever forgive Negan. While Daryl is walking behind Maggie, Kelly catches up with her and volunteers to help with the task, as she also wants to look for Connie. The group walks most of the day until Cole informs Maggie that there is only half an hour left before sunset. Maggie wants to move on, but Cole convinces her to finish the journey and find some shelter. Maggie decides to clear the nearby parking lot of walkers, which Daryl and Kelly don't like, but they agree. Everything goes well at first, until Maggie notices a group of walkers coming out of the container and tries to close the door, injuring herself in the process. Fortunately, she manages to close the door with the help of Daryl and Elijah. Later in the evening, when Maggie is treating her wound, Daryl comes to her. He says he's glad she's okay, because he was afraid something had happened to her when she stopped responding to emails. He then asks about Maggie's life after she left. Maggie tells how she and Georgie helped other communities, but everything was unsuccessful. When Daryl asks about George's condition, Maggie says that a few years ago they found a community near Knoxville and helped them. While Maggie decided to stay with the group with Herschel, George and the twins went in search of a city in the west. Soon after, the community in Knoxville where Maggie was staying fell, forcing her and other surviving members of the group to flee. Maggie says she hasn't seen George since. When Daryl asks what happened to her band, referring to her last home, Maggie refuses to discuss it yet. She adds that after that, she and the group went instead of the ocean, which belonged to Maggie's grandmother and where she and Glenn talked about going someday. She claims how Herschel liked it there, and when Herschel asked how his father died, Maggie said that a bad man killed him, to which Herschel asked if the bad man got what he deserved. Maggie explains that she left because she didn't want Negan to occupy her thoughts anymore and didn't want to bring Herschel back to this. Daryl assures Maggie that she can come home and that nothing has been decided with Negan yet. In the morning, the group wakes up and prepares to leave, but they are prevented by a walker. While Elijah is dealing with him, Cole wonders where Kelly is, because she should be on guard. Meanwhile, Kelly inspects an abandoned truck and notices a jacket on the roof. She tries to climb up and reach out, but she is suddenly grabbed by the leg, which terrifies her. The culprit turns out to be Maggie, who reproaches Kelly for leaving her post. Daryl explains that Kelly's sister is missing. Elijah quickly climbs into the truck and throws Kelly a jacket, and Maggie tells that Elijah also lost his sister. Kelly inspects things, but finds nothing, to her disappointment. During the trip, Maggie asks Daryl if Coney is alive, but Daryl doesn't know. Just as they are about to arrive at the meeting place, they see a cloud of smoke rising in the distance. Maggie runs forward in terror, followed by the others. Maggie desperately searches for Fur's hell in the burned-out building, but finds nothing but the corpses of 2 members of her group. Cole is sure that this is the work of the Reapers, a group that attacked their former home and destroyed it, and then apparently followed them to Virginia. Maggie is determined to find the rest of the group and her son. Daryl finds several tracks, including Herschel's, and determines that the group fled north. He also assures Maggie that they will find the culprits. After a while, the trail splits, and the group also decides to split up. Daryl and Maggie are going in one direction, Elijah, Cole and Kelly are going in the other. Cole hears some sounds and instructs Elijah and Kelly to take cover. When they decide to move on again, Elijah remains motionless. Noticing this, Kelly asks Elijah if he is all right and asks him to take off his mask. He does this and is visibly frightened. She comforts him and tells him that he is not alone. Elsewhere, Daryl and Maggie are on the trail. When Daryl heads in one direction, he is chased by an unknown figure. Daryl grabs a young woman, Maya, and briefly takes her hostage, but releases her and apologizes when Maggie identifies her as a member of her group. The trio are joined by Gaz and Ainsley, 2 other members of Maggie's group. Maya explains that the place where they were staying was set on fire, Jen and Billy couldn't get out, and Maddie was killed by something in the woods. She didn't see who did it, but Gus is sure it was the work of the Reapers. Maggie asks about Herschel, to which Ainsley replies that Kim found him, but she hasn't seen any of them since. The conversation ends when Gaz is suddenly shot in the throat with a silenced weapon. The group runs for cover while an unknown assailant shoots at them. As Daryl and Maggie make their way through the woods, they hear another gunshot and a woman moaning. Ainsley was shot in the stomach. Unfortunately, Daryl and Maggie can't help her, as they both agree that it's a trap. Maya, however, takes the bait and gets shot in the chest. Before dying, Maya points out the direction, which Maggie perceives as a sign that she saw Herschel. Continuing to hide from the shots, Maggie and Daryl determine that there is only one shooter. When Maggie sneaks up to the sniper's nest, she finds only the shooter's rifle. While she is searching, a figure in camouflage rushes at her with a knife, but she dodges and stabs him in the chest with a knife. Despite this, the man shakes off the wound, pushes her to the ground and pulls the knife out of his chest. He tries to kill Maggie by throwing a knife, but she dodges in time. As the man approaches her, Maggie steps back, falling into a trap, and ends up hanging from a tree. Before the man can kill her, Daryl shoots him in the side with his crossbow, and then attacks the attacker. The man dusts himself off from the wound again and easily throws Daryl into a tree, knocking him out. Fortunately, this gives Maggie enough time to free herself. Just as she is about to meet the aggressor face to face again, the man gets an arrow in the chest, and he is quickly surrounded by Kelly, Elijah, Cole and the rest of Maggie's group. Maggie furiously questions the man about his identity in his group, but he doesn't say anything. The man calmly throws the weapon to the ground and just says "Dad marked you," then pulls the pin out of the grenade and blows himself up, and the others dive for cover. After that, Maggie and Daryl search for Herschel in the woods. Maggie calls him a whistle when something falls on her head. She looks up and sees Herschel sitting in a tree. Later in the evening, the group rests. Maggie is sitting with Kelly, and Herschel is sleeping on her lap. Elijah arrives and gives Kelly an apple. Maggie thanks her for Elijah's help, as he has been through a lot. She hopes that someday she will be able to meet Connie, and Kelly assures her that she will. When Kelly leaves, Daryl comes in to talk. He tells Maggie that he didn't know he was dead and just mocked her. Maggie says she will return to Alexandria with them, even if she has to deal with Negan. A few days later, the group arrives in Alexandria, but discovers that it is under repair after being destroyed during an attack by the Whisperers. When Maggie and Herschel enter the house, Negan and the other Alexandrians are watching them from afar. While preparing for the hunt, Carol approaches Daryl, who offers to accompany him, to which he reluctantly agrees. While the two of them are cooking the fish that Carol speared, she says that the recent loss of the hilltop and the attack on Alexandria made her wonder if their luck is starting to run out, but Daryl disagrees. The dog suddenly runs away, and the two follow him into the old hut. Carol suggests they spend the night there before realizing that the cabin has sentimental value for Daryl. Daryl tells Carol's story through flashbacks. 5 years ago, shortly after Rick's supposed death, Daryl wanders alone through the woods, trying to find at least some traces of him, alive or dead. Carol sometimes meets with him to hand over supplies. After one of these meetings, a Belgian puppy approaches Daryl, who leads him to the hut. Upon entering the hut, Daryl is taken hostage and interrogated by an unknown woman, but she soon releases him when he explains that he does not want to harm her. She refuses to tell Daryl her name. He asks what the dog's name is, and she says she just calls him Dog. Over the next few months, their paths periodically cross. Daryl returns the dog when he runs away and offers her the fish he caught. She reveals her name, Leah, and a romantic relationship begins between them. Daryl starts staying in her cabin more often. The couple gets closer through hunting, fishing and watching the solar eclipse. One night Daryl notices her looking at a picture of her son that she keeps under the floorboards and tells the story of how she lost her family and the army platoon she was surviving with. The dog was born on the same day, and Leah kept him as a souvenir of the family she lost. Fed up with his obsession with finding Rick, Leah convinces him to make a choice to look for Rick, return to Alexandria or stay with her. Daryl decides to continue searching for Rick. After an unknown time, Daryl returns to the hut hoping to make amends, but discovers that Leah has disappeared along with the photos under the floorboards. He leaves several cans of food under the floorboards along with a message saying he wants to be with her and encouraging her to try to find him. Currently, Carol and Daryl begin to argue about the events of Rick and Con, with Daryl blaming himself for the former and Carol for the latter. Carol tries to calm him down, saying that she needs him as a friend, but Daryl tells her that he is tired of the same conversations and regrets that he dissuaded her from leaving. He tells her that he will no longer stop her from running, as he has done in the past. Through tears, Carol tells him that she was right about their luck running out.